And we are back, baby. Welcome to another That Manga Dude tier list. This is becoming a common trend just because these videos are pretty easy to make and you still get some content from me talking completely improv about various information that you may or may not care about. And today we are doing One Piece arcs pre-time skip. So there is quite a few to go through, and if we're gonna be completely honest, I had to look up some of these because I actually just straight up just didn't remember what some of these were. So yeah, just bear with me and let's get on with it. So we're gonna start with, I put them all in order also just to make my life a little bit easier and hopefully remind myself what the hell some of these were. So first one is Romance Dawn, and that takes up to Zoro, if I remember correctly. So I would say it's a pretty solid start, pretty solid arc in general. Get to meet the main player, or one of the main players, of course, in the entire series, Shanks, and you get to meet your main character and my favorite character, Zoro, which I guess is a spoiler for later in terms if I ever do a One Piece character tier list. But I think Romance Dawn is a pretty decent start, so I kind of like it. I like it a lot. Orange Town. I believe this is the buggy arc, is what I call it. I'm really bad with arcs. I really only remember like the main arcs. Please keep in mind that I have read up to volume 98, so I am I would say I'm pretty well versed on One Piece, but I also just have the memory of a goldfish. So yeah, this one's pretty good. You get introduced to Nami in this one, and of course you get introduced to Buggy, one of the best One Piece villains. Just a very good arc. I think it's pretty decent. And that's when Nami unofficially joins the team / crew. So that's kind of a spoiler, I guess. But next up, we have Syrup Village. That is going to be the Usopp one. That's where you see Kuro and you meet Usopp's family, basically. Or let me rephrase that. His pseudo family. It's okay. I didn't actually like this arc very much, even though Kuro is a cool villain. With his like sword claws, but yeah, for the most part, it didn't really do it for me. I think it was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Barati, I love Barati, or Barate, I don't know how to say it, but that's where you meet Sanji. It's where you meet the head chef of Barati. It's where you have like the really cool battle against Mihawk versus Zoro, and Mihawk totally slams him. I think it does a really good job of showing power levels at that point in time, showing that like although Zoro has had a fairly easy time throughout the main parts, that there are definitely people who are stronger than him, and also Luffy, which is a nice change of pace for that part of the series, because I think that happens in like volumes 5 or 6. So it's just a nice kind of like introduction to that, and also an introduction to like the stronger people, like the Warlords of the Sea, and then also Cannonball dude. I'm blanking on his name, but he was cool. And also, you learn more that or the crew finds out that Luffy can't swim, I think, in that arc, if I remember correctly. So that's interesting. Then Arlong Park, awesome arc. That's also where you get Nami's backstory and like her really sad backstory, and then the fight against Arlong is pretty sick in general, and just like all the fights in general in that arc are really nice. So I'm gonna put Arlong Park here in A. Rogue Town. Okay, Rogue Town, this was, I think I looked this up, this is the one where Luffy gets caught and then almost beheaded by Buggy, if I remember correctly. It's also where you meet or where you find out about Dragon, sorta, I think, if I remember correctly. I think he appears, and then Smoker and Kusanagi, I think is her name. I think this is where you first meet them, right? Maybe not. That could be in Orange Town. But this was a pretty okay arc. I mean, it wasn't long, so like there's not a lot to say about it. But I think it's pretty cool. You get to meet more of the Marines, so that's kind of nice, other than like the douchey one that you meet in Romance Dawn. And yeah, it's a pretty okay arc. Reverse Mountain is pretty decent as well. I like it more than these two just because of the whale, and learning about all that stuff was really sad and kind of cute and stuff. So yeah, it was okay arc. It wasn't, it did its job. It did its job, and that's all we could ask for, am I right? Okay, Whiskey Peak. This is the arc where you meet Vivi for the first time, and you meet Baroque Works for the first time. This was actually a pretty good arc. This is actually the one that I remember the most from watching, just because the fat Luffy is stuck in my head forever. But it's pretty good. I mean, this is when you get introduced to Baroque Works, the Alabasta family, or like the Nefeltiri family, so that's really cool. And it's just, yeah, it's a pretty nice arc, and you get to meet Booger Flingin Man and what's her face, Miss Valentine, so that's cool. Okay, Little Garden, this was the one where you meet Mr. 3 and the painter girl. I don't remember what her code name was. This one was pretty weird. This one actually really freaked me out as a kid, and also as a teenager. Just like seeing the part where like people were getting turned into clay really freaked me out. So I think I'm gonna put that at B. I do like Mr. 3 a lot. He's cool. And then you meet somebody else here, and I don't remember. I think you actually meet Mr. You also meet Mr. 5 again, I believe. So yeah, it's a pretty good arc, and you also get introduced to the Giants, which is cool. So that's neat. Okay, Drum Island. This is gonna be my first S tier. I think Drum Island's a fantastic arc. You get to meet Chopper, and you get to meet the entire story of that, and Wapple and how much of a dick he is. And it's just like, in general, the way that Chopper's backstory is written and his current story is written is just really sad. And yeah, Nami's is also very sad, but I also think like there are more emotionally driven sections of Drum Island, especially when like the crew gets sick and you have people climbing up the mountain, and all that stuff. And then just the fight against Wapple is like very intense and really important, I think, for the entire crew. And then Luffy holding up the flag at the end is just, there's a lot of really nice parts of this arc, and I think it's just, it deserves to be an S. And then Alabasta is another high-ranking one for me. I put Alabasta at A. I know a lot of people say that it's too long. I don't know. It's like, you can nitpick any kind of arc for whatever you want, but I feel like Alabasta does a really good job of showing off a major villain who is not technically supposed to be a villain in terms of the like story per se, because he's supposed to be a like Crocodile is supposed to be one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and they're supposed to be the good pirates or whatever the hell you want to call them. But clearly and obviously he's not good at all. And I think his invasion of Alabasta was successful in comparison to some of the other villains here, or some of the other villains later in the series, where like they are villains, but they're really only, it's not like an invasion or anything. It's like they already completed that invasion, so it's just kind of, how do I explain it? Like they're good on their own rights, but I feel like Crocodile is successful in what he was trying to do in terms of how they set it up in the story versus characters who were set up in backstory or in history or whatever you want to call it. Characters like Doflamingo and NL, which we'll get to later, where their stories were like, oh, they're already completed what they needed to do. So it was really just nice to see Crocodile get away with what he was trying to do. And while he wasn't completely successful, because obviously he loses, the fight against Luffy is really awesome, and just like the overall violence and just the intensity of everything that's going on in Alabasta is just like beautiful in a way, or it's beautifully done, especially because you get to see like all of the crew members like get their shining moment during this arc. You get Zoro against Mr. 1, you get Sanji's like big fight, you get the fight with Nami where she's finally kind of useful for once, I would say. It's like the first time where she's not just like, oh, I'm not just the navigator, like I can actually fight, and that's like really cool. I actually really respect that. So yeah, overall, this is a really good arc. I mean, so much you could talk about. Okay, Jaya, so this is one of the ones I had to look up because I straight up just didn't remember what Jaya was. But after looking it up, it's where you meet the Bellamy crew, and you find out about like the origins or the idea of Skypiea. And it's okay. I mean, you meet Blackbeard here, so that's kind of cool. But it's honestly an arc that I forget about a lot, so I have to put it in the bottom of C. It's alright. I think it does its job, but I wouldn't say as good as these two. Okay, Skypiea. So, before, excuse me, just totally burped into the camera. So, Skypiea. There's a lot to unpack in that arc, and I think it's good. I think when I read it the first time around, I wasn't totally sold on it, and I'm not sure why. I think it bears a reread because it's like I don't remember it being as meh as I thought it was. So I'm gonna reread it, but for now I'm gonna put it in B because I just felt like Neru or Enel or whatever you want to call him was like an okay main villain. I didn't think was he wasn't doing anything. If that makes sense. He wasn't really like affecting the overall world of One Piece, which is what I look for in villains is like, oh well, their villainy is not just concentrated in one section, and you wouldn't have known that they were villains if the characters did not decide to go there. So yeah, it's okay. You get Robin. Robin joins during this part. I guess also in Jaya she does too. But yeah, it's just cool to see more of Robin and then more of like just the characters and the polyglyphs and stuff like that. But yeah, it's okay. It's not my favorite main arc. Okay, my only F tier, Long Ring, Long Land. This arc is so pointless. I don't even know how to explain it. I completely forgot that it was an arc until someone reminded me a couple years ago after I read it. I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it? And that's all I can really say about it. It's not memorable. It doesn't really push anything forward. It just kind of is there to be there as a way. It almost feels like filler, and that's like bizarre considering that like manga doesn't typically have filler. So yeah, that's all I can really say on that. Water 7. Okay, so I typically put Water 7 and Endless Lobby together because I go by the spines, and you know how the spines on One Piece they like go for the overall arc, I guess. So Water 7 is what lists Water 7, Endless Lobby, and post Endless Lobby. So I think for Water 7, it's a very good arc because you get like the entire situation with Usopp and Luffy and having to fix the ship because the old ship is just the Gomeri is not making it because it's been through so much and they can only repair it so far. So Luffy makes a decision to create get the Thousand Sunny built, and Usopp and that whole entire like situation, especially like that is such an emotionally driven part, and I think it's one of the highs of this series is the Usopp versus Luffy fight, because you could just tell there's so much emotion where Luffy is regrettably fighting because he's like, you need to understand that we can't move on. I know how much this ship means to him. I didn't really explain it in the Sword Village section, but like that ship was given to him from like his childhood friend, or like the person that he's like sworn to protect in a way, and it's just a ship that means a whole lot to him. So for him to have to destroy it / get rid of it is heartbreaking, and I think that whole thing is cool. I don't really care for the Frankie sub story. It's whatever. It's okay. I think it's fine. But the introduction to CP9 is really cool and kind of creepy. And with Robin's exiting of the crew at that point is also very exciting. And then the water train is also just really cool. So yeah, I'm going to put Water 7 here in I'm gonna put it above Arlong Park, actually. I do really like Arlong Park, but I think the Usopp versus Luffy fight really just like is just so good. Okay, Endless Lobby is another one of my S tiers. I think it's my favorite arc of all time for One Piece, and it's so easy to see why. I mean, everything about it. The fight between Luffy and Rob Lucci, the fight between all the CP members, or the CP9 members versus the crew, is also just a nice... It's different from Alabasta in the fact that, like, now everybody's, like, powered up in a way, so you get to see all those new powers and new fighting styles and everything, and it's just, like, really well done. And obviously one of the most iconic moments in One Piece is when Robin yells, "I want to live," and that whole situation, man, that part really got me choked up. I have never cried at a manga before, but that got me very close, and yeah, there's just so much you can tackle there. Just how well CP9 is written out, how well the world government is built up at this point, and just how intense this entire arc is. Because it really does feel like that Robin could die, and I think that's like what makes it so good. Spoiler alert if you didn't know, but I mean, like, it is a One Piece arc, so like of course there's gonna be spoilers. Yeah, just really, really solid, really amazing arc. It's one of my favorites in probably all of Shonen. So, yeah, if that means anything. Okay, post Endless Lobby. I straight up just don't remember what happens between here and Thriller Bark. I think it's like they're just chilling. I don't really remember. So I'm gonna have to put this in C because I don't think it was bad, but I don't remember what actually occurs per se. I guess like they officially get Thousand Sunny, so that's cool. But and then Frankie joins, but okay. Thriller Bark. So the thing about Thriller Bark for me, Thriller Bark is actually my least favorite main arc of One Piece, and I think the reason why is it just doesn't hit the same way, or like it doesn't hit the same highs that I would be expecting from a main arc, and it's okay. I think Brook's introduction is pretty cool, and his backstory is very interesting, but I just feel like it doesn't really push the story forward in a way that some of the other parts do. Like, you get introduced to Gecko Moria, who's whatever. You get to introduce to Oars, I think, at that point, and like some of his other crew. But for the most part, it just like I don't know, it doesn't hit well enough. Like, it just seems like it was okay. I enjoyed it, but it's not one that I like look fondly back on. So I'm gonna probably put it in low C, probably here. Yeah, I don't know. And then just like the emotional moments didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't feel emotionally attached to any of like the situations that were going on, and I didn't feel like anyone was in true danger like in some of the other arcs. So especially for the main arcs, so I don't know. It was okay. All right, Sabaody Archipelago or Archipelago, depending on. I say Archipelago, and I know everyone. Or I know a bunch of people who get hella mad at me, but whatever. So Sabaody, this is a nice, solid arc because you meet all of like the new players in the world. So you get to meet all of the new boys. Everybody's squatted up. You get to meet Bartholomew Kuma and his semi-interesting backstory, and it's just a nice it's a nice preparing for the last part of the first pre-time skip section. I think it does a pretty good job. I like it. I like it more than Skypiea, Little Garden, and Reverse Mountain. Probably more. Yeah, I think I'll put it at a high B. I think I like it more than all of these. All right, Amazon Lily is whatever. I don't care for this one. It's okay. It doesn't do anything special to me. Like, you meet Boa Hancock and she's cool, I guess, but I don't know. There's not much to say about it because not a lot happens per se. Yeah. Oh, you also meet where is it? In Sabaody, you also meet Silver's Raleigh, which is important. And I think that's where you meet the dragons too, or whatever, the really rich people. Man, am I remembering that right, or is that after the time skip? I think it is before the time skip. But you do meet the worst generation, I believe, in Sabaody the first time around, right? I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that at all, please. If I'm wrong, no, you do. Okay, sorry. I'm actually looking at my bookcase right now, so I'm kind of cheating. But no, you do meet. Yeah, so you do meet the worst generation in Sabaody. So I'm actually gonna move Sabaody up to low A, because that's when you meet Kid, and you meet Jewelry Bonnie, you meet Scratchman and Pooh, Beach, and Law for the first time. So you meet all the cool people. Oh, and Mihawk and X-Drake. So you meet all the people who are really important in the second half, or whatever you want to call it, the post-time skip. So yeah, I think that's more important. And once again, Amazon Lily doesn't do anything for me. Impel Down. Okay, Impel Down is cool and very interesting. Just because it's like, it's a weird arc because they're trying to do something where Luffy is breaking into the jail and trying to get to Ace before Ace gets taken off to be executed. And it's a pretty cool arc because this is where you meet Ivankov and the scissors person, and you meet like that entire crew and how like there's been like an underground jail in a way where it's like not really a jail, it's kind of like a party time. And Ivankov is part of the Revolutionary Army, which you learned, I don't know if you learned now or if you learned before, but is Dragon's like group. I won't say crew because technically he's not. Well, he is a pirate, but not really. He's like a revolutionary, whatever. I don't know. His squad. Yeah, Ivankov is a part of his squad, so like that's cool. And then just getting more context and characters coming back, like Mr. 2 and 3 from Alabasta are back. Excuse me, not Alabasta, from... I said their names before. What was it? Baroque Works. There we go. From Baroque Works. And you also get to see Crocodile again. And just like the whole escape section is just really great. And Mr. 2's sacrifice is just like holy moly. And then the two main like villains or whatever antagonists of Impel Down are really intense, especially like the poison guy. He's like actually terrifying. And funny enough, he's the only one that Luffy doesn't technically beat during like the main arcs. So that's kind of cool. So I'm very curious if he'll come back because he hasn't yet, but I highly doubt it. So I'll put Impel Down at a low A. Okay, Marineford. There's so much to talk about with Marineford. It's probably one of the best arcs in One Piece. It's very well written. It has a lot of emotional moments. It has one of the most heartbreaking moments, and it's also one of the first times where Luffy doesn't get away with it, if that makes sense. It's like, it's not one of the first times. I would say it's one of the times where Luffy's consequences, or Luffy's actions have major consequences to the story and to the characters around him. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, huge spoilers, wee woo, watch out. It's when Ace dies. That whole situation was terrifying and terrible, and just like, oh man, I'm getting a little choked up now just because like it was such a moment in that series where for me is where it affirmed that One Piece was a really great story, where it's like, oh, you know what? Luffy doesn't get away with everything. Luffy does make mistakes, and it has important consequences, because not only does Ace die, but then also Whitebeard dies. Not necessarily because of Luffy, but Whitebeard dies because of Blackbeard. And you have like that entire like crazy war and all the like intense battles, and you get to meet Marco for the first time, and Marco is one of my favorite One Piece characters, so mild bias here, but yeah, it's so good. And you know what, just kidding, we're moving it up to S. It's not as good as Endless Lobby to me, but that's like comparing a 9.5 to a 9.25. Like they're both so good. So yeah, they deserve to be up there. And then post Paramount War, this is like the flashback with Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, and it's like pretty nice. It's pretty good. You get like context in terms of like how they all met each other and how Luffy and Ace aren't technically brothers; they're like blood brothers. And then you get to find out more about Garp, and yeah, it's okay. I like it. It's nice. It's okay. I don't think it does anything particularly crazy or intense. You do meet Sabo, where you think he dies, but God, he doesn't. He doesn't actually die. Spoilers. But yeah, it gives a nice context to everybody, so I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's gonna be it for my list. If you look at that, that's a beautiful list. It's of course the only right list because I'm always right. I'm just kidding. Of course, this is all opinionated. This is not fact. I'm not a One Piece analytics person. I am just a person who very much enjoys manga and reading it, and I like commenting on it. So yeah, if you're butthurt about it, sorry. Feel free to let me know in the comments. But don't be a jerk about it. Yeah, so if you like it, like the video, comment, tell me what you think are your favorite One Piece arcs, or what you think you would want to have the top and at the bottom. And yeah, feel free to subscribe so you can get more of this very goofy content. It's almost like a podcast the way I'm talking, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so feel free to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.